I think one of the most transformative things that's happened in my life, and I would also say it's the best thing in sort of an odd way that's happened in my life is I got diagnosed with cancer 3.5 years ago. And I'll also preface it like I'm happy to share about my experiences there, but I don't want any of your audience to feel like I'm ringing the bell. And I don't know if you know what that means or maybe everyone in the audience, but in the infusion centers, a lot of them when you finish your last treatment, you have an opportunity to like ring a bell to celebrate. And it's a really powerful
I bet.
moment. But like I chose not to, and some people don't, do it. And I chose not to because I was conscious of I didn't want to make anyone else feel bad because I know that there's always people struggling, and then some people don't survive, right? And so if that ringing the bell somehow, impacts them personally, I didn't want to ever, and so if in me sharing my experiences, has anyone reached out to you, Cherry or Russell, and said, "Hey, I didn't like how Dave was ringing the bell on all this stuff. And my mom's going through this. I'm
No,
going through this." I would just ask, like, please, like, share their information with me because I'd like to make amends if I
Dave, it's the contrary. It's
yeah,
these parts that because just you talking about it, and you already told me a little bit about it, that just you telling me about it created a level of emotion that this is the stuff that people remember about people that come on more than they do about what was talked about. They remember aspects of it, how it made them feel because they can identify. And you and I spoke about, I shared some of mine, you shared some of yours, and I think, I think that's what we wanted to accomplish. I
sure,
think you'll find the contrary. You might find people reaching out to you wanting to know more.
yeah, yeah, I'm happy
Yeah.
to do that too. So maybe what happened with my journey is that I was in tremendous amount of pain over, the holidays for like 3 weeks. And it to the point where I couldn't even stand up straight. But, like most people, it's like, oh, it's a long year. It's the holidays. You don't want to disrupt any of the celebrations. So I just kind of like, you know, uh, gritted through it. And then I remember it was January 6th, and I got off a conference call at 9 a.m. and I cried uncle. I told my wife, I'm like, I'm going to go to the ER. And she's like, it's about time. Like, you should have gone like 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
And so I went and I just thought like, oh, they'll just give me something. And then, it turned out to be a lot more serious. And when they first diagnosed me with cancer, I thought the prognosis was like 6 months to live. And then I got through that, sort of initial milestone. But then I got into immediate life threatening situation where I was, the odds were against me to last longer than 48 hours. And at the last, period of it, it was like every 30 minutes, they're going to see if am I still alive or not. And then thankfully I got through that, did surgery and started chemotherapy. And I was kind of sitting at a scenario where I had like a coin flip, 50% chance I would be here today, in 2026. And thankfully I made it through there. And it was a lot of, yeah, it was tough, because you're faced with your own mortality. But like I said, it was the best thing for me because it really helped focus what is really important. Like when you're in the hospital, thinking you don't have much longer to live, like it crystallizes what you think is important. And it really is family, like my wife and kids. And one of the, amazing things about it, or I find really powerful, is it's kind of like this, paradox almost of how insignificant you are and yet hugely significant in the right way. So I think about it as like in this universe of billions of years of all this stuff, like you're a speck. You're not even a speck, right? So you're insignificant. At the same time, you're so significant to your family. And that's what I focused on. And like
Wow.
that was really like powerful for me. And I try to remember that every day. And from a work standpoint, I was trying what I was telling you, Russell, is like, I was really grateful for even flow during that time. And I recall like halfway through chemo that like my oncologist was like, "Well, Dave, this is the point in time where I write you, a letter to your boss that you get medical leave for the last 3 months because it's too hard." And I was like, "There's no one to write the letter to." And I remember that moment for I worked 90 straight days, like like you know 90 straight days, even in the lowest periods through it. And it took its toll, but at the same time, I was so lucky. And, I would see people who like, great corporate jobs or a great family, but like life moves on, right, for them. And then they would feel isolated and not needed, right? And they're struggling. And then the whole work kind of keeps going. But Even Flow needed me and I needed it. And it gave me like a huge sense of purpose. And then on the other standpoint is that, like if I just had a shift at Target or driving the bus, right? Like I couldn't control my time. Like I was completely privileged as the founder of Evenflow. Like if I didn't feel like I could work at 10 a.m. on a Friday, I did not work. I would find another time to work. But like if I was, my shift was at Target, like I had no control, right? So I just was tremendously lucky, to have Evenflow and working through it, even though it was unbelievably hard. I can't, say tell you how hard, say enough words of how hard it was, but I was just really grateful. It reshaped how I thought about my life, my family, and yeah, Even Flow was just like a blessing for me. So
Thank you for sharing that. That's can't even imagine, and you can't unless you actually been through. But one thing I can resonate with, one of the worst times in moments in my life turned out to be the most clarifying and best moment I ever had. It set me on a completely different trajectory that I could identify with, and what happened inside, and realizing about that speck. Yeah, I think of a huge white sandy beach, and I'm just one speck, but I'm also part of the whole too. And I think that we as human beings sometimes try real hard and suffer from this thing I refer to as terminal uniqueness, and we're not really at all. As a matter of fact, we try so hard to maybe not be that, that we're what, because the flip side is we're closer than we could ever even fathom to each other. And I damn sure know that nobody's on their in the hospital wishing they would have put a few more hours in, at the office instead of being there with their wife and kids. That's for damn sure. And that's a wake up call. Thank you for sharing that with not only us but all of us. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. No, I'm happy to, yeah, that I did. Yeah, I'm happy if any of my stories, help people or whatever, or they want to learn more. Like I'm always happy to share and help how I can. So
Well, I've learned recently the story is really important, Dave.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, I agree.
Yeah. And thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
And I wish we had another hour to go through your
But we can't
experience
ask them though,
starting
can't
up.
we, Charity?
We sure can. We can ask you to come back in the future
I would
because
love it. Love it.
we have a
Yeah.
whole other set of
We got
questions where we
so many
can get
questions out
into.
here. It's not even funny. Yeah.
I
No,
always
I
make
love it
more.
anytime.
Thank you. Your analogies were great. For me, the best part of the whole show is what you just shared. The personal stuff. That's the stuff. Don't ever forget that. It took me a long time to realize it. I'm still realizing it every day. Those struggles, those trials, those tribulations, those are the people, where people stop and reflect on what's going on in my life. Because what it looks like on the outside most of the time is not really what's going on the inside.